This week on the Sports Initiative podcast, I sit down with good friend Tyler Sibbick. He discusses his time as an academy coach as well as personal beliefs and philosophies, and talks through, from experiences, what makes a good goal scorer. I hope you enjoy. Perfect. Tyler Sibbick, how's it going?
Very good, yeah.
Busy? Things busy in the football world for you? Or
Busy, yeah, quite busy with work, yeah. And, well, that's my football world now because I've stopped playing.
Okay, so obviously you've gone down the playing route. What made you start playing in the first place? Why did you pick up football?
I think it's just something I got coached into by probably my dad. He's a United fan and big football fan, so he took me to football when I was 5, and I'd say I just loved it ever since then.
Okay, so obviously for your sins, you're a United fan now. I'd imagine you're not particularly fit.
Yeah, I'm still a United fan, but funnily enough, I actually quite enjoy the turnaround. Obviously, it was all success when I was growing up, but now it's one of those points where you don't know what way the club could go now. Hopefully, it's going to go forward, but like with you look at what Liverpool have done now, where they've sort of had the same dip and were out of the Champions League for a few years, and now they're back at it, challenging for the Prem and the Champions League, or won it last year.
Well, I'm a Spurs fan, as you know, and obviously I'm hoping for some sort of success, be that a Carabao Cup or anything like that. But
yeah, anything, take anything.
What's been interesting listening to United fans is them saying about bringing through the younger players. What are your thoughts on that? Obviously, you've sold Sanchez and Lukaku in the last window.
Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for the young ones, as in like you look at Rashford, we didn't get in the position where we had to play him, he would have never probably had that breakthrough that he did. As in, we had no strikers, so he played it was a Europa League game, I think. He scored 2. And then I remember I went to the game after that. It was the Arsenal game, and he scored another 2, I think it was. Something like that. It might have been 1 in the Europa League game. But if he didn't have that breakthrough, he probably wouldn't be where he is today, I don't think. And there's lots of younger players now getting a little bit more of an opportunity. Look at Greenwood coming in, and hopefully he gets a bit more of a chance to prove himself, because I think he could be a good player as well.
Okay, so obviously there is a bit of a youth movement, I guess, in English football and stuff at the moment.
Yeah.
Obviously a lot of the foreign teams, if you look at Spain, Germany and teams like that, they've probably been doing that a little bit ahead of us and giving people a chance.
Yeah.
Do you feel like in this country we have quite a good academy system that would flourish if people were given a chance?
I think like you look at Chelsea now, and I think that's like, it just shows the quality that English academies have got. And you look at other teams across the Premier League, players coming through, like Southampton, for example. This last year, Hasenhüttl coming in and playing, I think it was like 6. There was like 6 academy graduates in the first team squad. So given the opportunity, they can show they can do it like in the Prem. And you look at Chelsea now, Tammy Abraham and what's his name, Mason Mount. Yeah, he's looking unbelievable. He looks like a class player. So just given that opportunity, but I know Lampard says, they've earned the opportunity, but there is obviously the case that they couldn't bring any players in, so they had to play him as well, and they've proved themselves. So I think if there was more, and you look at the players that have gone abroad to Germany and gone and done it as well, and they still got what's his name, 18-year-old. Bayern wanted him last year.
Hudson-Odoi.
Hudson-Odoi. Hudson-Odoi's class, and he's only 18 or 19. He's still got to come back into that Chelsea squad, and I think he'll get into it as well. So it just shows that given the opportunity, that's 3 players from their academy system gone straight into the first team.
So do you think it's a reluctance from the older generation of managers to give players a chance, or do you think it's people maybe that have the fans backing that are more willing to take a risk? The example of obviously Lampard, former player, going there. A lot of the fans are obviously on his side.
They're right behind him. Yeah.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, similar scenario where he's come in probably a dark cloud after Mourinho to a certain degree. He's kind of got free reins to almost not do what he likes, but take a few more risks than if you had, for example, I'd use like Alan Pardew going into like Newcastle. they seemed a little bit more against him, or Pulis, or people like that. Do you think that these younger managers are just a bit more brave with that type of stuff, or do you think it's that they're just?
I think they probably are a little bit more brave with it. But I think they're also in positions where they've almost got to, because they can't go and spend a lot of money. And you see that now, I think, a lot in the Prem, where they go and managers are looking to other countries and they're willing to spend like 40 million on a youngster from a different country who's not really proven as well, when you've got players in your own academies that could step into that first team.
I think the irony with Chelsea is obviously they've been looking for a striker since Drogba, pretty much.
Yeah.
And if you look at the players that have gone through, they obviously went through like...
the
Higuain,
you had...
Giroud,
that's it.
Morata,
that's what I was thinking of, yeah. And they've all sort of come in, and they're all good strikers, and they've all gone other places and done after, and almost done quite well. But I don't know whether the system didn't suit those strikers, because Chelsea, when Hazard was there, it was sort of everything goes through Hazard. But yeah, I think with now Tammy Abraham scoring, he's like seven in whatever in 8 games, something like that, and he looks like he's flying.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see if more of the top teams are willing to play those players. So obviously, like you say, United have got Mason Greenwood, who, from speaking to a few people at United and they seem like they're keen.
Yeah, I've spoken to just been on courses and things to like United's academy staff, and they said that he's been like top throughout the academy system. They said they've not seen a player like him. So they said they think it's like big sort of. He's a huge player going forward, and he will potentially be a United player.
It'll be interesting to see if more teams are willing to do that. Obviously, a little bit of a dig as a Spurs fan, but Arsenal, for example, I'd imagine they've got some great youngsters, but not a lot of them coming through. And Maitland Niles is giving it, and Willock. Again, I think
that managers are doing it now more in the Prem. You're seeing it more and more from the top clubs as well. They're bringing those academy players through, giving them the opportunity, whether it be in the Carabao Cup or things like that, and then that gives them the chance to then step on. And with teams like United not quite doing as well, it again gives the chance for the players to play in, like the squad the other day in the Europa League. There was Greenwood, I think, he scored the goal actually. We won 1-0. He scored the goal. So games like that can give them a bit more opportunity as well.
So what's interesting as well, and I think it's actually been quite good for probably development of English football, is people going abroad.
Yeah.
So if you look at like Sancho, who's
definitely.
almost started a little bit of a phase of people going, you had Lookman from Everton who went and did the same thing. Do you think that's something that we're a little bit behind in?
I think that's also because now our players are looking to go abroad, whereas that never really used to happen too much. We can get English players leaving leaving England to go and play in Germany. Now players have done that and they can. And Hudson-Odoi, he was halfway out the door at Chelsea, but now they've shown that little bit of love for him, and they showed they want him and they want to give him the chance. I think that's why he signed the contract to stay. So yeah, I think what was the question originally?
Well, no, just do you think that's something that will continue in terms of
I think
go to maybe Spain and Italy?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It might happen because the players have done it. Sancho, for example, have gone and been successful, and now looks like a top player, and he's getting in the England squad as well, and looks sharp, and he's young.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of talk of him going back to United, which would be interesting if he did.
I'd have him at United, definitely.
Front three of him: Rashford, Martial.
Quick,
sharp. But could do with some defenders, but what are you going to do?
I think United's defenders are alright. I think that's the one thing with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think people are hammering him, having the United's worst start in whatever 30 years they're saying, but I thought he's recruited quite well, as in 2 good defenders, and who was the other player they got in? And James as well. And James has probably been one of our best players. Yeah. He's done well coming in from Swansea, and young again, and looks decent. He's probably been our best player up to now. So yeah, I think
I find it interesting that we're seeing more players from lower leagues come through now as well. So if you look, obviously you had Vardy, who was like a shining light and played I can't remember what level of football it was, like
Yeah,
Simbridge or something like that, and there's obviously flying. Obviously got James there. Big one at the minute is Tyrone Mings. Obviously come from these parts, so I think you've probably played against.
Yeah, I definitely. I remember I played against him. He was playing for Yate Town in the Southern League, and he came on last 10 minutes for Yate, so he wasn't even getting a start for them at the time. So he's come on leaps and bounds since then, and now he looks like a top player, and like he's had an England call up, and yeah, he's flying.
Yeah, so I find that's an interesting route. Obviously, we talk a lot about academy football and all that type of stuff. The one probably bit that I have is I don't think there's like a safety net for those type of characters, but like not so much 16s because you have loads of college programs, all
that sort of thing. Yeah,
but probably slightly older, like your 23s age group. You have a little bit of university stuff, but even then, it's that.
Yeah, I think with players like him, I heard things, whatever it be, him being too small and him being released from his academy that he was at, and I don't know. I think these days we seem a bit more clued up on how big players are going to be with all the S&C and sports science, that sort of stuff.
So it's weird when I think, listen, obviously he said during the England interview a couple of weeks ago what the situation was, which again is part of the times if you didn't have.
What did he say? Was that
someone asked him, said, "Were you released because you're too small?" And he basically said, "Yeah."
Yeah. Well,
which, if you don't have the info, you're not going to know. And if you're looking at a kid who's just getting battered, we've all seen it.
Yeah.
If you look at Q4s and stuff against some Q1s, they're given away over a year.
Yeah,
it can be hard for them. We are getting better at being clued up at that.
Yeah,
I
agree.
But I always think these players are going to fall through the net. Like I remember a story of Zola not being taken by Tottenham because they said he was too small.
Yeah.
Which you look at now and go, we could have done with a player like Zola.
Yeah.
Gascoigne, I think, got rejected. Like, there's so many examples of people not getting signed by clubs for a variety of reasons. But I think we'll get better
at that.
But I think there still needs to be a net from probably a little bit better than there is at the minute. I know you've got the 23s league that's trying to reduce that even still. But I don't know if there's a way to try and keep those lads in and try and produce. Because like you said, like you've got James, who's coming from Swansea, I would have thought it'd take him a couple of years to get up to speed.
Yeah,
he's flying.
He has. He's flying. He's grown in confidence since he started. I watched him a couple of times in pre-season. In the pre-season games, I think one was against in Milan. Can't remember the other one was against, he missed a couple of sitters. He looked off it, and I thought, he's obviously just a runner. But since then, he's been at it. He's beating players. He's scoring goals. He's must score 3 in the Prem this year so far. But and like I said, he's looking probably one of our most effective players.
So obviously, I know we'd had conversations about why I wanted to get you in here.
Yeah.
Main reason being you're a goal scorer.
Yeah, I am.
Okay,
well, I used to be.
Well, you used to be, still are. You played in a charity game a couple of weekends ago.
Got a goal.
From what I heard, you were very effective in possession, not so effective out of possession.
That's more my game, in possession. But it was. Starting from, I just go back to starting to grow up, and I was half decent when I was younger. I was in and out of academy system, sort of in with Rovers, Bristol Rovers, when I was maybe under 8s, under 9, something like that. And then that stopped. I don't actually know if it was because back then it was more a centre of excellence rather than a academy system. So, and then after that, under 11s, I went into Swindon, and was at Swindon for a couple of years. Didn't get through there at all. No joy. Then I got a bit older and had a trial at Bristol City, and again didn't make it through. So it wasn't like I wasn't part of an academy system continuously growing up. But at grassroots level, I was always a midfielder, centre midfielder. But part of my enjoyment of football has always been around scoring goals. That's what, if I come off the pitch and I hadn't scored, and we'd won 5-0, I'd still be disappointed because I want the team to win, and I am a team player, and I learned that more as I got older and started to play men's football. But I used to love scoring goals, so as a midfielder I used to want to get forward and score.
So that's strange. I didn't know you growing up. I knew you from 17, 18, something like that. I would assumed you were always been a striker.
Yeah.
So how did you end up as a midfielder
I didn't
initially?
Actually, so a midfielder, I think at my grassroots club, I was always one of the better players, so you sort of play your better
I hope they
players.
don't listen to this.
Yeah, well, I mean, more effective. This is back a long time ago, but but you put your better players centre mid, get up and down the pitch, that sort of thing. And then I also, growing up, my idols as well were Roy Keane, and Paul Scholes, like through United, and Nicky Butt as well. I used to but Roy Keane especially, Philip. No, but Roy Keane especially was one, like, my dad used to love him, so, and that must have rubbed off on me. I used to love him, so I just wanted to be that centre midfielder. But like I said, I had the enjoyment of scoring goals. So the transition didn't actually come until when I started a sort of like one of those programs we were talking about, those ones where you fall through the net and didn't get through anywhere, but I got onto a program at Team Bath, and Team Bath at the time were in the conference. They were Conference South, so they had set up a program, a 16 to 18s program here at Bath University, and I got onto it, got through, which I was really pleased about, and we had a really good squad and a really good coach. Matt Hale was our under-18s coach, who's now the academy manager at Southampton, and he taught us a lot about being not just good footballers but good people as well. Really look up to him. But in that squad, we had a good bunch of lads, but anyway, so going back to the goal scoring, I started centre mid. Again, I used to be an attacking centre mid, and that thing you said a minute ago about the charity game, the out of possession stuff, all the lads used to get on at me about not getting back. And anyway, the lad who was a striker, I won't name him, but he got injured, and there was a place up top, so I played the game up top, and I went and scored a hat-trick. And from that day on, so like I said, this is under 18s, I'm probably 16, 17 years old. From that point, I played up top, and I scored loads of goals that year for the under 18s at Team Bath. And at the end of that season, I also got Matt spoke to the first team manager at Team Bath, who, like I said, were in the conference, and got me signed on there as well. So it was like a real positive year at under 18s, and being a striker as well. So that was like my first year playing as a striker.
This is interesting, because I would imagine I was completely opposite. I was a defender. Like, I used to enjoy defending, and I used to joke I scored 2 goals a season, and after that I'd be like, I'm done. So I scored 2 goals in the first 2 games. That's me done for the year. Yeah,
I know. It's interesting where enjoyment comes out of football for different people. Yeah.
But I would have thought, if you liked goal scoring, you would have gone to your coaches and stuff at a younger age. I want to play up front.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at kids that I coach now, like, you have some of them that are clearly more defensive, but they're like, oh no, I want to play higher, or...
Yeah, I don't know whether it was just because of my whole life I played centre mid, so I branded myself as that centre mid player, but that attacking centre mid. So
you're 10.
I literally used to be the 10 when it didn't exist, so that would be me. I used to be the 10, but not get back.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, that was me really. And then going on from that, Matt Hill then went to Weymouth, who again were in the Conference South, and he took me with him there. Again, I was still a youngster coming through. Didn't really. I played in the reserves for a few games. I remember scoring a hat trick for the reserves there, and that got me a chance to play in the first team. I played maybe 2 or 3 games in the conference. I must have been 17 at the time. It didn't manage to get a goal and really make a breakthrough there in the conference for Weymouth, but they were in a losing battle anyway. They didn't have a lot of money at the club, and they ended up getting relegated that year. And then I made the move to Toolstation level. Again, I was still really young, and this is like my first proper season playing men's football. And as a youngster, I was quite physically developed. I was almost in a man's body already when I was 18. So by that point, I was quite comfortable playing men's football. But I'd say I learned loads, and then I played for a team called Cowan Town and scored a few. I can't remember any goals that year, but I was really enjoying playing up top, really enjoying playing men's football, picking up a little bit of money on the side, and then sort of progressed from there. Went to a team who were challenging for the Toolstation League the next year. So Larkhall signed for them, and I think I scored maybe 22 goals that year, and we won the league as well. So I stayed with them again. We couldn't get promoted because the ground wasn't good enough. So that's one of the lower league problems. But the next year they committed to, if they did get promoted, if they did win the league again, they would make the adjustments to the ground and go up. So yeah, the next year I think we did it. We went again. I think I scored 49 goals that year. So probably one of my most prolific years in the Tool Station. Scored 49 goals, and we did win the league. We got promoted, and then it was like my first. Because I'd actually left Larkhall in one of the seasons to go to the Southern League. Went to Bolton, didn't really get an opportunity. And went back to Larkhall. So then when I stepped up the level with Larkhall, that was like the perfect opportunity because it was with a team that I knew. We knew we had a good squad. We knew we'd have a good chance playing in the Southern League, and we actually got to off the back of that getting promoted. We then went and got to the playoff final of the Southern League as well to get promoted into the Southern League. That was Southern League did one. That was to get promoted into the Prem. And again, I think I must have scored about 36 goals that year as well.
And that was about, exactly how
I don't, around I don't know, but I'm not including cup. It's around about that. But yeah, so I just had some really good few seasons back to back. And then work started coming into it, weekends, working for Southampton, or for any academy, any coach will know you've got to do weekends as part of your job, and that sort of had an effect on me because I was having to miss training during the week, and that's never easy. Doesn't sit well with the manager, and yeah, that was sort of, and then work sort of kicked on, and then the end came when, not the end really, but as in the turning point was I played a game. I was playing for Larkhall again in the Southern League, and I'd gone to take a shot on the edge of the box, and the ball's sort of in front of me, and I'm sort of trying to kick it to my right, and the lad's coming straight onto the ball to clear it, and I'm stretching to shoot, and he's kicked the front of the ball, I'm kicking the back, and he's gone through way harder and snapped my knee ligament. So grade 3 snap there, and then I really struggled to get back from that. I was probably out for about a year. And work had progressed a lot in that point because I had to work to earn my money. I wasn't getting any money through football anymore. That's the reality of non-league football as well. And yeah, so from that point on, I sort of focused more on work, and never really made it back to any real standard playing football, which is a shame.
Well, I guess obviously injuries are quite common, especially in Saturday League. I'm not saying that you were, but often people are out of shape and stuff, which doesn't help with injuries.
That was part of it. Definitely.
And then obviously you're, if people have been out on the night before and then are trying to play when you're dehydrated, there's loads of factors.
Yeah.
How did you find the rehab process in terms of that, and what support did you get? Because obviously I'd imagine it'd be quite hard as a. Yeah,
so I didn't at the start. I've tried to get back into running as soon as I could. So that was the first thing I could do because I couldn't really open my knee up, but I could do straight line stuff. So I started getting back into that I'd say maybe 6 to 8 weeks after it had happened. So that might have been maybe too soon, I don't know. Anyway, about a month or two, went by. So maybe we're looking at maybe 8 weeks in now. And I got there's a guy who runs a gym near me, and he offered to do some rehab sessions with me, just one-to-ones, doing lots of stuff just to strengthen my knee. So did that, and then sort of got back to a place where I could sort of kick the ball again, but I could also feel it, and I don't know whether that was me. And then it's also playing on your mind then with an injury, with a bad knee injury. I think anyone who's done it would know that it sort of plays on your mind. You're sort of half-hearted on that leg, and once I got back to playing, I could still feel it a bit. But I didn't get back to play until maybe 6 months after, and I wasn't really playing properly, as in with work, it was in and out, and didn't really get back into it at all.
So in terms of like any structure stuff with physios and stuff,
I didn't. No, I went. I did. I went to the NHS and had some physio sessions with them. I didn't really think that it was great. I didn't really think they were doing anything for me. I had what else did I have? I went through the NHS. That was about it, really. But I didn't really have a great deal of support. Did a lot of it on my own, and that was probably part of the reason of not getting back.
I suppose it's easier for the people that have physios there every day.
Yeah.
And the days where you're like, I can't be bothered with this. They'll be there to go, no, come on, like, it's important.
Agreed, yeah.
It's easier just
to sack it off. And yeah, I just think perhaps I needed a bit more support with it to get, if I was looking at getting back playing to a decent standard.
Yeah.
Which I probably didn't get or didn't seek either. So
it'd be interesting to, well, obviously happens to a lot of people. I know you can get personal insurance and stuff a little bit, but then equally, are you going to be paying that every month and all that type of stuff? Whether there's something
I think there are. I think some clubs, because I remember on your pay packet they used to take a little bit of money, and I think it was insurance. I think it was some sort of cover for the players. So I know some non-league clubs definitely do that, but not the club I was at the time, unfortunately. So
I'm going to rewind a little bit.
Yeah.
The first things you said when you went from 18s to men's football was you learned a lot.
Yeah.
That's one of the first things you said. So just talk us through what did you learn when you come from being, like you said, quite physically developed in your under 18 team or whatever, to then going into men's football. What type of things?
I'd say I just learned a lot more about the game. Obviously, being new to being a striker, I'd done a few practices and drills at under 18s where it helps you your movement as a striker, but I think I was pretty good at holding the ball up, so I got a lot of practice at that and playing against men. And me being obviously only 18, again, I could hold my own, but learning to do that, so being able to protect the ball was quite a big part of it. And then just movement, I'd say, just movement as a striker. I think it's probably something I was quite good at. I was never really that quick. So it wasn't like I was a runner in behind, but I was someone who could find a yard, create a bit of space for myself to get a shot on target. And that was probably one of the things I learned.
So who did you learn those from? Were those like coaches or people you were playing with?
I'd probably
just
say,
learning from the game,
I'd say again, under 18s, there was a good season or so, because under 18s was across 2 years. So essentially under 17s and under 18s, but it was in the first year I transferred to a striker, so I probably had a good season of coaching, doing some structured practices where we used to break off and just go strikers, and we'd work on a little bit of movement, whether it be coming short and one going in behind. We used to play with a 2 up top then, so you have all that sort of thing. One comes short, one goes in behind, one runs the channel, that sort of thing. And then transferred that in, but mostly when I was playing men's football, I used to play up top on my own. So, like I said, learning to hold the ball up and protect the football, and then I was quite skillful on the ball to be able to create a yard to pass or get a shot off around the box.
Okay, so do you think there were transferable skills from when you used to play centre midfield as a kid to then going up top? Because like for me, for example, I know if I went up front, I would be able to shield the ball off one side, because that's the side I'm more comfortable with. I'm right footed, so keeping the ball on my right hand side, shield it on my left. If you asked me to go the other way, I'd really struggle. And obviously, technically, I wasn't great. I wasn't great. I learned longer distribution rather than playing short. That was the way like my youth team played and all of that type of stuff. So for you, do you think there was transferable skills from your upbringing in grassroots football that helped you in that role?
I think so, because I used to be quite keen on being that technical player. So I was fairly technical on the ball, decent with it, and my feet I could dribble. And I'd say I'd definitely take those skills into being a striker, as in, I could shift the ball quite well. I could use a little move, whatever it be, a little trick to create a yard. My favourite move, my go-to move would probably be like a Cruyff turn. I got that one on both feet, so you get the old double Cruyff out. I think definitely there was lots of skills that came, or benefits from playing centre mid, where you've got to be a slightly more technical player to then going up top and applying that there as well.
Okay, so when you were younger, did you used to practice that stuff?
Yeah, so I'd say that's what I was going to say. So I used to go out and practice with my dad all the time, and I'd always practice shooting. So even when I was a centre midfielder, I always used to practice shooting. And looking back on it, that's why I'm quite good at finishing, because I used to just do it all the time. That's because being that age, being a youngster growing up, you want to go, if you go and practice, so that means going kicking the ball in a goal most of the time. So I think I did a lot of that, but it was quite structured. My dad was a coach as well. He was our coach, but he'd also done his badges, so he wasn't just a grassroots coach, but he had a bit of knowledge. So we used to set up little practices where I beat a code and stick it in the bottom corner, that sort of thing. So we used to do lots of things like that also helped me playing as a centre midfielder, getting forward. But that clearly helped when I got moved to a striker in my under 18s and as a man.
Okay, so I guess with that, you would say that like finishing is a skill that could be learned rather than just something that's naturally.
Definitely, I think I see that a lack of in. Well, we work for Southampton. I see that as I don't see many natural finishers, and whether that's because we don't do it enough or they just don't practice it enough, I don't know. So yeah, I think it could be something that's I think it's definitely a skill that needs to be learned a lot, as in practiced a lot, and it's an easy one to practice. But because it's ball striking, detail as well with your shooting, whether you're putting it in the corner. I rarely would use my laces to shoot. I always use the inside of my foot. So whether it's more, I don't know, that just comes into it as well.
See, I find it interesting because if you look back to, I guess, I'm going to say mid-90s, the collection of strikers that England had around then was ridiculous. So, like, off the top of my head, you obviously had, like, Shearer, Sheringham, Andy Cole, Ian Wright. Letizia would play, like, 10 or anything like that. I'm definitely missing a couple of others in there. Yeah. But
when did Owen come into it? Was he
probably
late
a little
90s?
bit,
A bit later, yeah.
98 maybe, because he was a youngster thing. But, yeah, so, like, Owen, people like that. So you had
they're
a
like
massive
proper
collection.
strikers, where finishers.
Yeah, but then you go for a stage where realistically we had like Owen, and then Rooney came on the scene, and then not, I wouldn't describe them as natural finishers. Like obviously Heskey played for a bit. Yeah, you had Crouch who played up top for a bit. Defoe was probably one of the more ones.
I agree with that. Yeah,
but then for whatever reasons there was other aspects of games that coaches didn't fancy. Do you think that anything to do with English football,
or the style of football?
The style of football led to a lack of goal scorers, or
I'd say the style of football has affected it in a way that we don't play with a out and out striker. Your strikers, sure, you obviously want that goal scorer, but you would play through your striker a lot more now, as in. Back then, it might be stay high, stay central, get yourself in and around the box and score goals. That would be your instructions or the instructions I'd receive as a striker as well. Even not long ago, but I'd say that was similar for them. But now the striker is almost more, again, like more of a technical player as well, getting on the ball, holding it up, feeding players, keeping possession. You don't see that. Just out and out goal scorer. You can find them now, obviously, but they're not like they were. I'd say, especially for England. Yeah,
so it's interesting. Like obviously, Kane's prolific
now. And he would be he'd be that sort of striker. Wouldn't he? He stays around the box. He's not a runner. He's not going to run anyone, but he's really good at getting in the right places to score.
But he, if you look compared him to the other people that are prolific in the England team, so you look at Sterling's probably your next one in the current
completely
squad.
Different player.
Same, but they're probably similar-ish to Rashford and your Sancho's. Hudson-Odoi are coming in who are probably quite quick, almost Thierry Henry likes, good dribblers, can go past people and score. What's been obviously really interesting over the last few years is Sterling's development from a wide player who could just beat people and would set up Suarez or whoever. Yeah. So actually now he's
really added goals to his game.
Which I'm sure as a United fan you're thrilled about.
But you're going back to Kane though. He is that one who is almost back to that old sort of out and out striker. He's a striker. That's what he is. Whereas when you talk about players like Rashford, he can play left, he can play right, he can play through the middle. Same with Sterling. They're like those they're dribblers, yeah. Whereas Kane couldn't do any other jobs apart from up top.
Goals.
Yeah, he's there to score goals, and that's his job.
So do you think that that's a progression for like us as a country, the fact that we've got people that can do other things as well as score goals? Or do you think that actually it would be better for us as a nation to have people that are just really good at putting the ball in the back of the net? So I use Aguero as a good example from Argentina, of someone who is just ridiculously prolific and doesn't do a lot else, but when he's balls in the box, I'm there and watch him go, well, that's going to be a goal. Suarez might be another one. He's sharpening around the thing, finishes. Lewandowski the other night as a Spurs fan, ridiculous, like the one that's come across his body first time and you just put it in the back of the net. Do you think that that's a regression for us, that we've got less players that specialise in just putting the ball in the back of the net but can do all these other things? Or do you think it's a progression, the fact that we're creating more well-rounded?
I think it's really positive that we're creating those top players who are well-rounded. You've got those wingers who can now learn to score goals, and I think I don't know whether it's harder to create those players, but you look at the England squad, there's some top players in that squad now, but like we were just saying about the Harry Kane thing, it's hard to create players who are and Aguero, they're hard to create players that are just goal scorers, and I don't know how. I'd be interested to know what their sort of what their upbringing looked like in football, what their journey looked like to allow or produce that player who can just score goals.
Or is it a common thread? Is it where they just stand up there and score goals at youth team? It doesn't matter if they're the smallest one, the biggest one.
Were they always looked at as that player, or did they used to be a centre mid who weren't quick enough or whatever, or weren't strong enough, I don't know, or big enough? Were they that sort of thing? Were they a winger that, like I said, weren't quick enough, or did they? I don't know. I'd be really interested to know how that happened, because I'm just trying to think in the academy system that you do see players who are just really good finishers, but you see more players trying to become that sort of player, and almost they'd be the ones that stand out. Whereas the striker who doesn't really get involved, but he still sticks it in the back of the net.
Scores 4 out of 5.
Still scores 4, but you're coming off saying, wow, that number 7 who was dribbling and in and out and all that sort of thing, who couldn't hit the back of the net though. You'd be saying, oh, he's a top player.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see the development of that. So,
but then again, what age do you specialise at with that? I don't know. That's what I don't like. It's so tough to specialise at. Well,
like you just said there, you've got transferable skills from playing deeper. Where you've had to learn how to shield the ball, maybe receiving it as a 4, or having to dribble past someone, or your first touches, or because you're playing centre midfield, you've learned to do hook turns off both feet. Yeah. If you hadn't had that exposure at your younger age groups, it wouldn't have served you so well playing higher.
True.
So, do you go, okay, he's a 9, he's always going to be a 9, we're playing 9 the whole time?
Yeah.
Is that a way that's going to help you produce those top players, or is it that they get a load of different exposures, different positions, and then all of a sudden you find out actually he's not bad at finishing?
Yeah.
I guess either way you're probably going to lose some players through the net in terms of if you don't nail down a position, they're probably going to not become everything they could be equally.
Would you stick with them if they weren't necessarily they were fairly average at a few positions, but they weren't top draw at one position, like I said, position that they specialise in? Would you stick with them? I don't know.
I find Harry Kane a really interesting one as well, because
what do you know about his academy? Do you know anything about his?
So as far as I'm aware, I've spoken to a few different people, but it's quite vague in terms of it. From my understanding, he wasn't like outstanding as he was growing up. I believe his Arsenal and got released. I believe that was the case, and I think that he went into the Tottenham thing, and he was, I think, a bigger lad and used to be fairly clinical around the box, but didn't do much else. But wasn't like ridiculously clinical, weren't banging in goals all the time, but just kind of every step up he went, he did all right, did all right,
Yeah.
did all right. And obviously when he's coming to the first team, he went on like 7 different loan spells. Like, there's this picture I remember seeing of
The
him,
Leicester one.
yeah,
Yeah, the
him,
Leicester one,
Vardy, like Danny Drinkwater, and
Yeah.
someone else, all sitting on the bench in like Championship or League One game, and look, couldn't get a gig.
Yeah.
And then realistically, the only reason Harry Kane got an opportunity was because Adebayor was there and Soldado at Tottenham, and Soldado didn't fit what Pochettino wanted. High energy, that wasn't Soldado. He was meant to be a finisher.
Yeah, he was
from
going to be that player.
Villarreal.
Yeah. Well, he was. I think he was prolific at
Valencia.
Valencia.
And then went back out to Villarreal. But he was prolific over there, but really struggled over here. A common joke was it was Soldado pen was his
He
name.
could only score pens, literally.
So I think like for him, he didn't fit. And then Adebayor, I think at a time where they were either didn't necessarily seem eye to eye or just something wasn't right. So then they were just like,
he did quite well though, didn't he?
Adebayor, he did all right. He did all right. Like, and he's like lively. And I thought like he would have been all right for Poch. As in, I know he had a little bit of a maverick type attitude, but he worked relatively hard, especially when like he had a point to prove. I remember the time where he's done a knee slides at the Arsenal fans and Man City, which brilliant. For me it was quite. But yeah, it's I thought he was right, but for whatever reason that didn't work. So he played Harry Kane, and similar to Rashford, just all of a sudden started scoring goals. Yeah. And then you were like, oh, okay.
Who's this?
And then he just kind of stuck. And then obviously he's gone on like since then.
Yeah.
But I think it really goes back to opportunity. It gives you, like, you don't know if someone's ready for that opportunity. You give them it. And then if they succeed, then obviously maybe they're ready. If you don't, then maybe they're not. Like, there's plenty of other people that have given that opportunity, didn't quite work out.
But that's what I wonder as well. What would have happened to Rashford if he didn't score? Didn't score in that game, didn't score in the next game. Would they have stuck with him? Would he have still got his opportunity? Was that quality there that he was definitely going to make it through? Same with Greenwood. Now he's scored. I think that's his first senior goal in the Europa League last week. But he's not really had that a huge amount of opportunity to go and start games and go and score goals. So I wonder what will happen if he doesn't.
Does he end up like your Fraser Campbell's of the world, who was meant to be at United, didn't really get an opportunity, went out on loan to Tottenham, did okay, went out to Sunderland, did okay, and kind of floated around. And like, I guess those first few games, like if you can get a couple of goals under your belt and the fans get on side,
and
what
it must do for your confidence as well. I think that's part of the James thing as well at United, is the confidence thing of scoring a couple of goals and everyone getting behind him. And so I
was listening to an interview with Ian Wright yesterday, and he was saying one of the big things, like he came on a few times as a sub and like it hit the post, and like obviously he said I love doing moves. He's like, for me, I'd gone from trying to show off in front of 20 people on a Saturday to like 20,000. He goes, it's brilliant because every time I did something good, they were ooh,
yeah.
And he said, but when they put me on, when I started, I eventually scored. He goes, it gave you the confidence. You feel like you belong there.
Yeah.
Which I suppose a goal scorer is the main thing that you need to belong.
As in, he probably, I imagine he. Maybe, I don't know. I wonder if he doubted when you go to United, am I going to be able to do it at this level?
He must have done. You've got to be human. You've gone from Swansea, like Championship team, like it was
not scored a huge amount of goals for Swansea either.
No.
No, I think he'd matched. I think he scored 3 goals or something like that in a season for Swansea, and he scored 3 already for United. But so not hugely prolific, and he must have been questioning, can he do it at that level? Now, scoring 3 goals, being one of United's top or best starters this year, I'd say. Must be flying with confidence.
It definitely must. That confidence thing, I think, was a big for a striker. So, question I have for you then. Yeah. So, the ball's coming into you in the box and around the box. What is your first thought as a goal scorer? What is your first thought? Is it what I think it's?
Yes, it's going to be exactly what it'll be. Can I score? Yeah.
So straight away, that is.
Yeah, I'll be always thinking, can I score? Definitely, that'd be my first thought, and I'd say that should be for any striker should be. If I get the ball around the box, can I score?
Okay, so the next question comes to this. Say, for example, you go to shoot and it gets blocked, or you go wide, and then 2 seconds later, someone has a pop. So like, I'm here for a sweaty, or I'm here for a pass. as a goal scorer then, what is your... Because I always find that's a really weird dynamic, because as a coach, but also as a player, I'd never really want to tell my striker to stop shooting.
Yeah.
Because I always feel like if you tell him to stop shooting, well, why is he on the pitch?
Yeah.
But equally, there are times where
They need to pass.
Goal scorers make ridiculous decisions about not passing to someone else. Like, you look at the Salah
I was
and
just
Mane
going to
the other
say,
day.
yeah, exactly.
So what in your head? So say for example, you've had one of those where you've just gone wide and then someone has a pop at you.
Yeah.
In your head, what are you thinking now? Are you going, I'm wrong, or are you going, well, I'm trying to
I
score?
think I would normally just say it was on for me to shoot. If it's on for me to shoot, I think that's justified. If it's on to score a goal, the only other thing with that is, like you say, with the sweaty, the pass across goal for the tap in, that one's a little bit different, as in you're looking at a definite goal for that. Whereas if you're not in a position where it's going to be a definite goal, then there might be some question around that. But I'd say if you're in a position where you can shoot, I would, and same, speaking to any players that I would coach, like you said, you don't want to ever tell them to not shoot, and as long as it's on to shoot, and they shoot, if they shoot and it goes wrong or whatever, then I'd say it's the right decision.
Okay. So then, are you reactive off of defenders? So will you go, I'm going to take my touch there. Oh, actually, I've seen him creep half a yard, so I'm going to do that. Or do you literally, as ball's coming in, go, right, I feel where he is, I'm going to do a little ham roll and then shot?
I don't know, really. You try and play off the cuff as much as you can, but I'd say little bits of movement have always been something I did quite well. As in just pulling away from a man and that just to make sure you can maybe get a chance to shoot. But yeah, I'd say I'm pretty good at pinning a player and then just creating a yard to shoot as well. I try and play. I think you just play off the cuff. You don't think about it too much when you're playing. What you're doing, you're just doing it.
Just
almost.
do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So say for example, this is a skill that I find really difficult with the younger ones. I don't know if this can be taught. You've played off the cuff. You've beaten the defender. How do you then compose yourself to go right? Because in my head as a defender, I'm going to hit the target, which probably isn't what I think. Your thing is probably putting the back of the net.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say.
So how do you teach that composure or that calm?
Yeah, I'd say that is one of the hardest things to teach. Is players then when they get that opportunity, often you look at it and it's so rushed, and that's when they lose the detail. And so I'd say just trying to help. I don't know, repetition of being in that position. I'd say practice it, but I'd say and showing as much detail as you can with your finish. You don't often see. You do actually, but you see Alan Shearer used to be. I think they said he used to aim for the keeper's legs and smash it towards the keeper, and say the keeper he wouldn't sort himself out to stop it. But I think you look at Aguero's goals, Kane's goals, very often, more often than not, he's not smashing it towards goal. There's good detail behind the finish, so whether it be the inside of the foot bending it or hitting it low, and you're not. It's be very rare that I think you just see him hitting it towards goal. So that repetition, hitting it on target for you.
Yeah. So that repetition of going away and practicing of this is going to go bottom corner every time.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's got to be something that any goal scorer should be aiming for. Get the ball, they're aiming for the corner of goals.
So what's really interesting, I was on a coaching course recently, and one of the things they said, which I think is really fair, but I don't know how at what age you'd implement this. They said that over a game you might get 5 opportunities or 6 opportunities. So going and just practicing go after go after go after go isn't realistic to what you have in a game. Which I completely understand, because I'm kind of like, well, actually they need to focus on that one, because if you give them 10 opportunities and they score 7, well, one of those 3 in a game could be one that they miss. But if you're only getting kids to practice 10 every 2 weeks because you're correct for them or anything like that, is that enough repetition for them to actually develop the technique in order to be able to finish effectively as they get older?
Yeah, that's a good question. This is a tough one. But then, you said about them, they only get that many chances. What are they saying then? Well, how do you get that?
Do a session that they're doing other stuff. So you might, say for example, you might do a possession practice.
Yeah.
This is a really rough thing. But you might be doing possession practice, and then all of a sudden, like, you'll blow a whistle, they come in and they got to finish on that one.
Yeah.
So not loads of repetition.
Yeah. No, I get that sort of thing, but I think with repetition, I'm a believer in repetition, that you will then you like the memory of it. Then when you get into that position, you should be showing that same technique of finishing. You look at Beckham with free kicks, things like that. I know that's a dead ball, but the amount of repetition that goes into things like that, Ronaldo with his free kicks, it's all about practicing and getting better at that one thing. And I bet Kane in lots of his sessions, Aguero in lots of sessions, I bet he gets the ball and he just lashes it in the goal. I say lashed it. He's I bet they're doing lots of finishing, I'd say, and I reckon that's probably the same for Sterling. I think he will be doing a lot of finishing practices. When he gets into those positions, he's showing a lot more detail and quality with his finishing.
Yeah. I was obviously playing for City is getting more opportunities to do it.
Yes, well, half of them are tapping to the back stick, which I think you could take them. But
yeah, no, it's an interesting. If you look at other sports as well, they're really big on that. So I'm into American sports quite a lot, so they go and do loads of repetitions of the same set pattern. Or, in basketball, they'll do loads and loads of shots from the same thing, but they have someone standing underneath the hoop. The person moves from one end to the other, throw it to him, he shoots.
Yeah.
And same thing over and over and over again, which they make a point of why they continue and improve as they get older. I'd probably say that's something that in football we're a little bit behind with, is we almost say at an age of like 24, 25, people stop being able to improve on stuff or stop being able to develop skills and whatnot. But I wonder sometimes if it's because we don't go away and like the culture of going away and practicing on the skill probably isn't as high. Like Ronaldo in interviews came out and said he would go away and practice his heading
and look at
his heading now, or he'd go and practice free kicks. Whereas actually, if you look at a number of, like, I'm not going to name any, but if you look at a lot of players, I feel like maybe they don't just go and practice and go, actually, I really struggle with this. So you might have a really quick winner who struggles with their end product. Or do they go away over off season and go, actually, you know what, I'm just going to hammer my end product for the next 8 weeks?
I think they do. I think they must do. I think that's things they know they must need to improve at, and they have to go and that's what you need to do to improve. You can't get better at it.
Culturally though, I don't think that's a thing.
I'm saying, I remember hearing I know this is Phil Neville, but he said he needed to work on his end product. And I remember he was someone around this, he would practice a step over, and he was saying, I did it in a game and whipped a ball in, and he was like, and someone hammered him for it or something, but he'd gone out and practiced that, so when he went into the game, he could then use a step over, beat a man and whip a ball in.
But I want, like, United, I think especially around that time, that culture was there. Culture of improvement was there. But I mean, generically, I don't know. Again, I could be wrong on this. Obviously, I was a scholar at places. I saw people staying out doing keep-ups or two-touch or stitch. I saw people doing corners, free kicks. I didn't see a lot of going, actually, I really struggle at that driven pass for where I got open out and zing it to my right winger. I'm going to stay out for half an hour every day and practice that. And again, that could have just been where I was or paying attention. But I don't know whether it'd be really interesting to see whether a lot of Prem clubs, Championship clubs, League One, League Two clubs, do people stay out for half an hour, 45 minutes?
And if they do, what are they doing? Is it pens? Is it free kicks, corners?
Because that stuff's fun. I'd be all over just practicing
finishing or a little bit, but and then things like that, little bits of two touch and keep ball, those sorts of things.
But as a centre half, or whatever, is that necessarily the best use of your time? Or as a 4, is that the best use of your time? If you're doing that for 25 minutes every day, it probably will improve your touch.
Does a winger go and get the ball and just cross in 20 footballs?
And would that make them better if they did?
Yeah. I think it would. By the way, I think it would. As in, the repetition of it, I think it improves you.
Okay, so obviously I know you've recently started your AYA.
Yeah.
I think you've done 2 blocks, is that right?
2 blocks. So the first one was a core block, both 3 days. This one was more of a so yeah, must have been about 7 or 8 presentations, and then the second block was the social block, so it then goes into the 4 corners, the next 4 blocks.
Okay, so I know there was one bit we were discussing the other day regarding the social corner where you were saying about them, was it putting them on notice or something like that?
So yeah, I quite like this.
Cool.
I really like. It's like any course. There's bits you sort of disagree with, which is good. There's bits you agree with, and then little bits you take away as well, and apply to your own coaching. And that was one. It was like we talk a lot about like the praise and stuff when it's empty praise, but there's empty praise, yeah, but it's just that's the noticing. So that's for example, well done, Freddie, that sort of thing. That you've said well done, you haven't said why. That you can go into detail. Maybe you might do that in the break or whatever, or when you get them in, but that's the notice. So they know you've noticed them, and just little bits so that you obviously sometimes when you're coaching you've got a big group, and that it makes them feel secure in the group if they know they're there, sort of thing. You're not just because you get the ones that stand, that you get them in, same ones will stand at the back, but as long as they know that you're noticing them, I think it makes it a lot better environment for them to be in, sort of thing, because they know you're there as a coach and you know they're there,
yeah.
And they know you're seeing them, and they're not just someone standing at the back.
It's interesting because we would use an example of like little fist bump to say well done to someone, a little high five, like if they've played a really good pass in training, call them over and go, love that little high five. And you're saying about noticing, which I think is really interesting. There's social corner. Big one for me at the minute is the psychology around sport as well. I think that it's probably underplayed a little bit, and at the younger age groups it's hard because obviously they're developing as kids and people, let alone obviously their work as like footballers, if you like. But for me, I think the psychology type of stuff is really interesting to see. We're talking about confidence goal scorers. So how does that actually?
You look at confidence, not just that effect. Confidence is such a huge effect on anything in football, I think, or in sport probably. But how you look at a team in confidence, you look at when Ollie took over. Same team, but United looked a completely different team just because of the confidence that was flowing through the club, not just the individual players, but the whole club. Everyone was behind Ollie, everyone was behind the team, and they reflect on the pitch. I mean, I think if we went and played at PSG now, we'd probably go and get battered 6 or 7. But yeah, so
I'm assuming you got a corner on that, a block on that.
Yeah, so it'll be psych block. I think Tech and the
be interesting to see what you
block.
come back with the psychology corner on.
Yeah, I think that's the next one. But I think that is the next one.
So on your social corner stuff, obviously, I can see you've got some notes in front of you. What other highlights did you come from that?
So it was more. I spoke about like the environment, but just making that environment that you're coaching in as secure as possible for the players, because we've all got players where players have got things going on at home and whatever, but it's making sure that your environment's the same one. They know what they're coming to, and once they're in that environment, it's a safe place for them, and that's when learning's going to happen. Things like I said, just the almost repetition of what you're doing every week, so they know what they're coming into. Not everything's brand new, or not everything's chaotic, like a good word, but they just know what they're coming to, and like I said, it's safe. So that's one thing I'm going to look at. I think we do lots already, or I would do lots already, that it makes it a safe environment. We do that as clubs as well. But then just looking at other little bits. So, like I said, the noticing, even if there's just a rival practice, go and say, we would say hello to all the boys straight away, but having a watch, giving them a little well done straight away, that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm trying to I'll just have a look through now. These are, I'd have to go through these.
That's right. I'm surprised you brought them, to be honest.
But yeah, no, I just it's good to reflect anyway. Was one of this is one of the main things that come from was creating this creating that safe environment, but an environment where the boundaries are set. So it was like a constant across the 3 days we were there. So the boundaries are your box, what that you set, and the boundaries cannot be crossed. So you're going to have players that happily stay within the boundaries. You've obviously got those players as well that are going to try and push the boundaries a little bit. So then it's dealing with how do you bring them back? So that might be just a conversation with them, making them aware of how that's going to affect what the detriment of them pushing the boundary is going to have on their own learning, what it's going to have on other people's learning. So nipping it in the bud, because as long as it doesn't affect anyone else's learning, then you might have to sacrifice them. You don't want to sacrifice the group. It needs to be them. So yeah, how we set the boundaries pretty much. So how can you set the boundaries? So like I said, repetition of what the boundaries are, not letting them slide. There's no reasons why they can slide. So we were speaking about players who are really struggling at home. For example, let's say there's some sort of issue. You don't change the way you coach. You don't change the way you approach the session, because that could also have an effect on them. You might notice and have maybe a conversation, but you would try and let them come to you. If they maybe don't come to you, you might not seek it, because they might not want that. But you might just probe them a little bit in your own way without actually asking them. So they might come out with it and then have a conversation with you about it.
Yeah.
So that was quite interesting. So that was around so we called it SLR.
I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting with the older lads to a certain degree as well, because obviously as you get older, particularly if you look at first team level, obviously they have like their own social thing of, like, there might be muckers in the change room that they are trying to show off in front of, or want to be the big man. They might have brands and stuff they've got to protect. Like, it obviously sounds ridiculous, but everyone nowadays their own brands. You go on social media and they're trying to sell all that sort of stuff. So how, as a coach, do you get it where these boundaries everyone's going to stick in, where everyone's pulling in the same direction? And I think that is probably one of the most difficult things to a coach nowadays. I don't necessarily think it's technical or tactical bits. It probably is we've got one person who wants to go and do this. These two are falling out slightly, and managing all those dynamics that everyone still goes in the right way.
I think it's making it clear they're all. It's an individual challenge for all of them. They're trying to become professional footballers. They're not trying to become a great team or them and their mates getting, but it's their individual challenge and their battle to go and become a professional footballer. So they need to make them realise that they need to apply themselves. They need to realise what they need to do to achieve that, to achieve those goals, not let things get in the way of that. So look, for example, social media, things like that, or all the things you just said about.
Relationships.
All that, yes. I mean, not letting that get in the way of their progression as a footballer.
And then the other hard bit, I think, is probably all the academies around the country struggle with this, is how do you balance them off the pitch and the things they do off the pitch with repercussions on the pitch? So, for example, you've got somebody who's messing around a lot at school. Some people, and I'd probably be in this one, to say, as a punishment, it's okay if it's warranted to get them to miss part of their game time or to start on the bench or something like that. Other people say, no, they're two separate things. They need to be kept separate, and we've got to try and address the school.
I've had mixed things. I've had mixed sort of experiences with this, because, and this again has made me reflect going on the course. We've had it in the past where players are misbehaving at school. We run day release, so that is, it's a treat to come out of school, and they do their learning here, but they also train twice as well that day. And I think we've had that where we have taken away that privilege to be able to come out of school to come and play football, essentially. And I've seen that work, nipped it in the bud, the behaviour in school. So that, I think, if it's I think that did work. When I looked at that, I thought, that worked well. But then after being on this course, it's, again, going back to the environment, there might be a reason that they're playing up at school, and they're in the school's environment. The school's boundaries need to be there. This is a conversation. I'm not just saying, I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but the school's boundaries are there, and the school should be dealing with them and bringing them back into their box of whatever their boundaries are. So then, when we shouldn't be taking away the safe environment, that is our training session, or whatever it's going to be, the match on the Saturday. So that could have a real negative effect if they're having a tough time at home, they're showing that in school, and they might want to just go to football and get away from it. It might be their get out, going to football training. And taking that away from them, is that necessarily going to help? I don't know, and that did make me think about it.
I think, yes, it's a real interesting dynamic with that, because I think you want to produce good young people more than anything else.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that hopefully I get a long career in coaching and can do it for many more years, and that most of the people come away and go, he improved me as a person and then improved me as a player.
Yeah.
Because I think like the person bit about having manners for people, walking around the building that we're in obviously is quite a big one.
Yeah.
Being polite to people, shaking hands, I try and take an active interest in their schooling, so when they turn up to at least one kid a session, I'll say, what have you learned at school today? Just so they realise that you care about them away from school. And they might, on the under-9s the other day, told me about partitioning and was explaining to me how you do partitioning in maths and stuff, which is great. Like, he now knows that I might ask him, so that might make him pay 1% extra attention in school.
I agree.
And so we obviously want that thing where they're being really good people, but the crossover, if they're not being really good at school, but they're being really good here, how does that look, and how do we nip that in the bud? I think that
this is one of the things that one of the FA mentors said about was, he was like, if football's obviously going to be something they really enjoy. They might not be enjoying what they're doing at school. I don't know. They might be, but either way, we wouldn't ever ring school and go, they're misbehaving at football, they need to miss a lesson, they need to miss their favourite lesson. That was the example he used, which is quite an extreme example. But he's saying that wouldn't happen. They would say, well, no, deal with it. They're misbehaving in your lesson, so deal with it. So we would almost be saying, well, the school should be dealing with that. They shouldn't be reaching out. They should have their own boundaries and their own repercussions of whatever they do if they cross the line in school.
It's an interesting one, because I was watching a documentary the other day with Stacey Dooley, I think it's on W, something like that, where she stays over people's houses for 3 nights. The most recent one that I've seen is with a MMA fighter. He's 14.
Right.
14 years old, is MMA, basically mental in terms of like kids that young doing a fight, and I thought, they're going to be getting concussion stuff. You're not allowed to punch people or kick people in the head. Yeah. It's one of the rules of this thing. So obviously a lot of wrestling, a lot of like arm lock, headlocks, a little bit of kicking and punching somebody and stuff. The kid they used as an example had anger management and stuff at school, or anger problems and whatnot at school. Yeah. And the parents made a conscious decision and said, if we show him down this route, all that's going to happen is he's going to kick off and stuff at school, and he's going to end up on a street corner causing chaos. Yeah. So they made a decision where they went, we're going to take him out. We're going to take him out of school. He's going to train 2 to 3 hours a day at an MMA gym, because he's saying that's what he wants. Yeah. And then we'll catch up with the schooling for, I think they said he has to do 10 hours a week because the MMA counts. And for them, initially I was like, that's wrong. Shouldn't do that. Yeah. But it looked like it actually worked. And it made me think about this and go, actually, some of the kids, I fully appreciate everyone needs to get education. I'm a big advocate of it. I came to uni after I got released at 18. I think it's really good that people have that, if it is a plan B for them, that they understand that, you've got a second option, and you don't just have to do what your dad your dad knows someone, or your uncle knows someone, your mum knows someone. You don't have to go down that route. You've got the kid who's, I think for Oldham, was it, who scored against United the other night, 16-year-old. He was doing his psychology A-levels the following day, really, and was doing education. I'm a big advocate for that. However, I appreciate that's not for everyone. That's so true. Does the educational system force everyone down the same road? Well,
the only thing with education, I think, is that it doesn't force it. It does in a way, but I mean, the sense that it opens up and you can choose your route, and it opens up so many avenues. As in, education is it's going to open up jobs for careers, anything. And thing with sport is that especially with football, is the chances are so slim that I think you can sacrifice your education for that small percentage. I think it has to go hand in hand to then give them the option to whatever they're going to do. And and I know obviously academies now, we do lots of education. They do their A levels and all that sort of thing, which is really important. So because the likelihood is, the harsh reality of it is, not most of them aren't going to be professional footballers. So they've got to have that good educational background, so then go and be able to do whatever else leads them on to doing.
I think football, which is good, it's got better with that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Supporting lads who want to go and do A levels.
Like when I even from when I did my 16 to 18s program, we did a educational side. It was a couple of days of college a week, and we didn't get a lot out of it from that side of things, but because we were so focused on the football. But nowadays they do their A levels alongside the program, so A levels are obviously going to lead you into going to university and onto then, like I said, a job, starting a career.
Yeah, I think it's a constant balance of wanting kids to have dreams and aspire to achieve those dreams. Yeah. But also understanding that if there's a room full of 25 kids, of scholars or whatever, not all 25 of you are going to be Premier footballers. So don't just go, that'll be my mate, he's the one who's going to get binned off. Go, actually, I'm going to come up with a plan B, plan C, and that can be educational, as you're saying there, or vocational as well. I think I'm rubbish DIY, but the ability for someone to go, actually, I don't really like education, but I really like woodwork, so I'm going to go and learn how to do loads of stuff with woodwork and be great with that.
John, I've got a friend exactly the same. He never great with school, never great in school, never got good grades, anything like that. Didn't really enjoy school. And he pretty much specialised. He knew what he was going to do. He knew he was going to be a carpenter. And I got one GCSE, and that was in woodwork. And he's a really successful carpenter now. And it just showed, like, he was almost specialised in that. And not focused on it. And I know the chances are higher you can go on and achieve that. But he had that goal, and he set his sights on that goal, and he went and achieved it.
Okay, so I've got one last question for you.
Yeah.
Which is this: I'm going to ask everyone that I can it's applicable to, which is, of the people that you've played against or with, who is the best player that you've played against or with, and why? Okay. What made them stand out to you?
Oh, that's a tough question. I've played against and with. I'd say there's a guy. Against or with. I'd say there's it's a tough question. Off the top of my head, that's stumped me. But in all honesty, I've not played with any top ex-footballers or anything like that. But players I've played with, there's a guy. His name's Scott Lye. He was a really good centre mid. He had a decent background. Played in the conference South for a few years. And he came to Larkhall when I was there as well. This was the year we had a really good squad, and he was a top player. Used to set me up all the time. Really technical player as well. And got on really well with him. And so he was probably one of the best players I played with.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think on that one.
No, it's a good one to ask because it makes people go back.
Yeah.
Why is he the best?
I think to him is because I'd say that, but I'd say one of the things is probably because he used to set me up all the time. Yeah. So that would be one of the biggest things. Why think back to that? Yeah.
So TJ, last one, he used to play with Ben Davis.
Okay.
And Swansea.
Yeah.
Jake went back to two kids that he used to play football with and gave reasons why.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I was trying to think big and think of players I played with or played against who are top players. And off the top of my head, it's a tricky one. But like growing up, there's this guy who's also had a tough sort of process. His name's Billy Bowden. I was with him at Swindon, and he was probably one of the best in the group then. And then he went on. I think he had a stint Swindon first team. He then went to Torquay and did quite well. But then I think they got relegated, and he got a real bad injury, and So after that, he struggled, I think, a little bit with his injury. He was out of football for quite a long time. He struggled to get back into a club, and I know Bristol Rovers put him on a like a trial pre-season, and he did well. And then he was at Rovers. This is a couple of years ago now, and he was flying and doing really well for Rovers, scoring goals, one of their top players. And then he went and got a move to I think it was not Derby. Who am I thinking of? Might have been Derby. Might have been Derby County. Yeah, so he's done, but he had a tough sort of resilience to get a real bad injury. Sort of almost fell out of professional football, I'd say. I know he went on trial at a few clubs and then break back in and kick on as he did. So yeah, credit to him.
Good. Right, well, it's been a pleasure, Ty.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it.
I'm sure we'll catch up on another one.
Yeah, we will.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for listening to the Sports Initiative podcast with me, Michael Wright. Please remember to follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram at the Sports Initiative Podcast and share this podcast with friends and family. I'll see you next week.